Well,
plays and things like
definitely as a returner, no doubt. I think he has to have a role as a returner. You know, and as you take a look at the running backs, I think that both of those kids have to play. I think they give us something a little bit different. You know, so I think both of those kids right off the bat add something to our run game. You know, and I think they can spell each other. You know, we can't. You know, we're not deep enough at the running back position to wear those top two guys out.
Do you want a guy that's full-time returner, like he's always the guy, or would you mix it up and use different guys at different times?
If it's a punt returner, I want a full-time guy. I think kickoff returners, you can mix it up a little bit, but again, I want two full-time guys that are back there all the time.
Would you be okay with a true freshman potentially? Obviously,
Sure.
Taquan
No
Mazzell
doubt.
coming in.
No doubt. If he's the best, no doubt about it. And we need to find out if he's going to be the best right off the bat.
What's your preference in terms of mentality for a punt returner? Some guys are kamikazes and they're going to catch the ball come hell or high water and try to return it. Some guys are a lot more careful about it. What's your preference?
Well, number one, you're going to be smart. You really have to be smart. You got to be a little bit daring too. I mean, to stand back there with your head up when those guys are coming down at you, you got to have some cojones. I mean, you got to be a guy. You can't. You got to be a real guy back there, and I think it takes a special kid. And if you don't have that guy, then I think you have to be careful. Then you have to fair catch a little bit more and provide him with as much space as you can to make sure of the catch. You know, and so I think those are the couple of things you look for. Yeah, I want that guy with the cojones that's going to catch that thing with any kind of traffic, because I know that we're going to give him the protection. He's going to have a couple steps there, but he's going to have to make the first guy miss, and then I want him vertical right away.
What does it say for this staff that is Coach London and 3 former D1 head coaches?
You know what's really cool is to sit in that meeting with other guys that have that kind of experience and know that you have a sounding board with whatever comes up, even in special teams. You know, and I'm sitting in there and I have Coach O'Brien on some things. It's a sounding board. There's a guy that has been there, has some experience, can give something back. Whereas if you have a lot of guys that haven't coached, you know, in some of those situations, then you're the only guy making the decision all the time. At least you have a sounding board, and it's really cool to listen to the experience and you know, just some of their advices and directions. I mean, it's really neat. As long as I've coached, I sat in that meeting, and I learn things every day. I'm going, wow, you know, I didn't think about that. But it's from a different perspective and a different personality and experience.
With those kind of different backgrounds coming together, do you guys ever disagree on stuff?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, no doubt
How
about
does
it.
that go? Who settles the argument?
Well, I think that we're all mature enough that we can disagree, as long as when we come to a decision, when we walk out of that room, this is how we're doing it. You know, and it's not an argument, but it is a good discussion, because it's a great experience sitting in there, and there's not just one way to skin that cat. And I found that out as we're looking at some of the run stuff on the board, and it's just all kinds of ways to do it. What's the best way for the University of Virginia? And that's what's important. And I think those are the decisions we're coming up with. And I think Steve is doing a great job of listening. And then the final, okay, here's how we're going to do it. All right, when we won't leave this room, this is how we're doing it.
Steve and Coach Lynn have talked a lot about being a powerful running game, offensive attack. Obviously, you lost probably your biggest back when Clifton transferred. Can you just analyze the depth of that running back spot and how they're going to adjust to playing that type of style?
Well, we're not real deep, no doubt about it. We got to stay healthy with those kids. But I think with Kai and Smoke coming in, that I think we've created a little bit more depth of guys that can play. Again, are they the most powerful and the fastest? No, probably not. But I know those kids are going to give me everything they got. And I think that's what's important when you're talking about a power game. You want guys that aren't afraid to hit it up in there. They're not afraid to lower their head and get that ball, downfield as much as we need to have. And I think we have those kind of guys. I really do. I think we can count on all of them because I like the way they work. I really do.
What was it about LeChaston Smith? He played linebacker in the spring. You guys now have him listed at least on the roster as a running back. What role do you see him playing?
Well, I don't know that because I really haven't seen him yet. I do know that he's very excited to move to that position, and I know that in high school he had a very, very good career as a running back. And I think if he can add to the depth of what we have, and maybe add to that power game as you're talking about, because he is a big old physical kid that can run. A little bit more straight ahead type of a guy, but I know he had a real good high school career. And again, let's see.
We're-
What are reasonable expectations for Mazzell, and how does a freshman like that go about earning your trust at running back and as a returner?
Well, I think, again, and I know I talk about this a lot, but I really talk about the effort part of it. Number one, can he handle all the formations and everything that we have going in? Mentally, can you handle it? Physically, can you handle it? And can you do that and still go to school? I think you have to take a look at all those things as any true freshman and evaluate, what their worth is going to be. Because as you get into school, then all of a sudden you got a lot of things pulling from guys. Now, some guys are more mature, and I think that Mazzell is. As I look at him and I talk to him, I know football is very important to him, so I know that he's going to get the work done in the classroom. He needs to play.
As you've done the special teams in your career, when you watch a tape of other teams, do you know when a team doesn't put the emphasis on it, doesn't prepare it, or does everyone these days kind of have that?
Everyone these days, for the most part, kind of has that. Now, they all go about it a different way, and I think that's what separates some. Some have a coordinator like I am and coordinate the whole thing. Some are parts of it, and sometimes I think you can get after those guys that are just parts. But for the most part, I think everybody is realizing how important the special teams area is and what you can gain or lose in that area.
How far-
Have you seen that change in your career, though?
Oh yeah, definitely. From the time that I started just coordinating, it really hadn't started yet, but then all of a sudden you started seeing special teams clinics, special teams guys getting together, the NFL special teams coordinator and an assistant coordinator, colleges having a special teams coordinator and an assistant that's working with them. So it has become a big part of the game. It really has.
How far ahead is Alec Vazanolik at punter of James Coleman and some of the other guys, and what are you looking for from that?
Well, I think Vaz is way ahead right now. He's way ahead in consistency, in experience, from what I've seen right now. Now, can those other guys do it? Yeah, I think they're in a position, but again, they haven't had the experience and the consistency that I think Vaz has at this point. I think Vaz has showed me some things that I think I can really count on this year to help our coverage unit. I really do.
What's the kicker competition look like?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a heck of a competition because I'm not settled on any one guy at this point. We've got R.C. Willenbrock coming in. I thought Dylan Sims finished up really, really well. He didn't start off as good, but I thought he finished well. I thought Ian started better and then didn't finish as good. So I think there's some consistency that we need to get from all of those guys. But I think we've got a number of guys that, again, as we go into this, in the first 2 weeks, I want to find out who's going to be the best.
Larry, you talked about, other coaches and programs sort of setting up clinics and doing things like that and sort of getting together and discussing. Did you head anywhere this summer to talk to anybody specifically about special teams, or did because you're learning personnality, or did you feel like your time was kind of better served?
No, you know what, I do it every year. We have a group of guys that gets together, a group of us college guys and NFL guys that get together once a year, and it's probably the very best clinic situation that I've ever been in. We've done it for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years, and it's one of sharing all the information that we have, and I probably have gained more from that than any one thing. And then I always get to a couple of NFL camps, and I'm constantly on the phone with special teams coordinators at other schools throughout the summer, though. Just last night, again, I was talking to a guy for 45 minutes on PAT protection and block series. So it's an ongoing process. There's always somebody calling that needs some, or I'm calling somebody else, within the group of guys that we know that we're not willing to share everything that we have.
Who's in that group that you talked
I don't
about?
know if I can get to that.
Anybody, at all? Or?
We know what, well,
Where do you go?
obviously Jeff Banks and I are the, you know, kind of the catalyst, and he runs a lot of it, because if you know his personality, it's pretty outgoing, and he coached for me, he played for me, and it's been a great relationship between both of us. And so from there, what we try to do is get a number of coaches from every conference that do not play against each other. Now that has changed again a couple different times when we make moves, that some guys have to be left out and some guys get added in, you know. But we try to get different coaches from different conferences and different levels. We try to keep it small though, because what we found out when we had about 30 to 40 guys,
Too many.
there's too many and the sharing didn't happen.
Where do you do it?
What's that?
Where do you do it?
It is revolved each year. You know, we started out in the state of Texas because it was kind of a central location for everybody to go. We were going to go to Nevada. Well, obviously that didn't work. So, but we just try to pick a spot that's convenient for everybody.
Who did we dump from the ACC?
I'm trying to think who it was. Clemson, maybe?
You mentioned Will and Brock, and I see he's got a Colorado background, because kind of didn't seem
You know,
like he-
I knew a little bit about RC out of high school because I was at Colorado State at the time. We weren't recruiting a guy, so I just know a little bit about him. But more than anything, from the head coach from Dartmouth, I just kind of listened to what he had to say, trusting his experience.
I don't think he kicked last year, did he? Or-
He didn't, no. No.
But you're saying he could be a factor here?
I hope so. Otherwise, you know.
Speaking of sharing, has Steve picked your brain at all about the pistol?
I'd have to kill you.
Okay.
Well, obviously, I think everybody in the country is talking about the pistol, you know, including us. I think it's a good enough offense. You don't have to experience it for one. It's good enough to talk about, no doubt. Now, is it good enough? Does it fit what we do? Maybe, maybe not. You know, I don't know. But is it good enough to talk about? You bet. You know, all the way.